share a story behind the creation of the Beautiful Flawed Foundation, and how has it evolved over the years since you started?
Yeah, Beautifully Flawed was started pretty soon after Bethany lost her arm to the shark attack. The community of Kauai came together and did a fundraiser for her to help raise funds to cover medical costs, which was so huge for the family. And so when they had paid the medical bills, there was about $8,000 left. And Bethany's dad, Tom, wanted to take that and use it in a way to kind of pay it forward. And so that's how we started the Beautifully Flawed Foundation. It was at the time called Friends of Bethany. And it was started to just reach out to those who had been affected by traumatic amputees, specifically shark attack survivors.
Mhm.
But over the years, our mission grew and our reach grew. So initially, that's how it was started, just as a way to pay it forward from what the family had experienced from the community and how that impacted them.
The funny thing is, my daughter, my youngest daughter, and I just watched the movie about Bethany that was on. I think it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just watched that movie, and my daughter is like, "Dad, is that like a real person? Like, did that really happen?" Like, and so I had to like kind of give her the background on Bethany. So it's pretty funny how the whole thing kind of comes around.
Totally.
So how many? I know it started as a like a shark attack victims, right?
Mhm.
When Bethany started the organization with that main focus at the beginning, like were there is it that common to have shark attack victims like this?
It's not super common, but it was common enough to kinda keep us on mission point. But we quickly realized that her impact was so much greater than just shark attack survivors, because we had people reaching out to us. I'm one of the founding board members, so being there from the beginning, like, we had people reaching out to us whose family members had lost a limb to, like, cancer or a traumatic accident. I mean, there's so many ways that people can lose limbs, and so it was like, okay, this doesn't does this fit in our mission? And so we kind of just came to a place as an organization, like, okay, we need to expand our reach, because there was such a need and a desire for us to respond to these others who'd faced limb loss. And so that's when we decided, like, this is bigger than ourselves. And that was pretty close to the time that we were getting ready to film the movie Soul Surfer, which we knew was
Hmm.
going to put us on a world platform. And so we really just did the work of changing our mission to reach the things that Bethany are passionate about. Obviously, those who face traumatic limb loss or born with limb difference, and then also young people. Just trying to inspire them in their lives to live a full life of purpose.
Very nice. And I know that you offer different retreats, events, and packages in your three pillar program.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate more on the different packages or events or
Yeah.
retreats that you guys offer people?
Yeah, definitely. We started with just doing care packages. So we would, put together a package. People would reach out to us with the story, and we try to be really quick on our turnaround response. So like when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, we brought a team to Boston and we're giving care
Mm.
packages in the hospital, some medical scholarships to those in need. So we really kind of started on that, and that just through going to Boston, that really reached out to, like, okay, we need, there's more opportunity than to just send a care package. And so our next step was retreats. We really wanted to help others in the midst of their trauma. Like Bethany had such an amazing response from people all around the world, sending her love and letters and gifts. And I know that that was really huge in her healing, because there was always something there to just encourage her. And so when we started the Beautifully Flawed retreat, the goal was to take a bunch of young women who had faced traumatic limb loss and kind of encourage them along their journey, that just because you face limb loss doesn't mean you can't do things like surfing. I think
Mhm.
that's one of the greatest things, that when we get to take them out
Oh yeah.
surfing, somebody that has, one leg thinking they'll never get in the water again, or someone who has no limbs. We have had several septic survivors that have lost both legs and both arms, and to get them in the water and see the joy on their face of like doing something that they thought they never could do is so amazing. So the retreats are really kind of rehabilitative retreats where we focus on body, mind, and soul. So we like get them in the gym, work out with adaptive coaches. We take them out in the water, teach them how to surf. We have motivational speakers come in and encourage them, and just kind of talk to them about trauma and helping them get through that. And then we have like a healthy chef come in, teaching them about healthy eating and how that can really impact their healing, and inflammation for those who face limb loss, because that tends to be an issue that they have to always combat, is making sure that their limbs aren't overly inflamed so that they can wear their prosthetics. Through that, we continue to, Bethany's really passionate about reaching out to young people. I think that her being involved in youth group throughout her life, like that was really inspirational, and having a lot of people like surf coaches just being in her life, having all that support in her life before she lost her limb also helped her later on in life. So she knows just having resources for young people is really helpful. So we started doing conferences. We do co-ed conferences, women's conferences, young women's conferences, where we just try to speak worth and value into their lives. And as we've continued to grow, we started having guys reach out to us saying, "Where's the guys, program? Like, where's the guys retreat?" And so that was just a passion of mine to really meet that need, because there's really nothing like what we're doing in that support system area, in the amputee world. And so right before COVID, literally 2 weeks before the whole world shut down, we finished our first ever men's forge retreat in 2019. And we've just begun to continue to see that program go. So we know that that support is so important in young people's lives, and having role model that they can look up to is really important too. So that's kind of the emphasis of what we do. I really always say it's like all the things Bethany's passionate about, and we get to just run with her passion.
Yeah, that's nice. And going back to the movie Soul Surfer that, my daughter and I were watching, that was probably the biggest takeaway, was the inspiration that you kind of felt from just whoever wrote that story. I know it's based on her life, but
Yeah,
how they wrote it and how they filmed it was a great inspiration. It really kind of brought all of that through, that hope and like that drive, and really the tenacity of don't give up.
right.
No matter what life throws at you, you just got to get right back on the horse. You got to get back out there. So I can just imagine, after just watching that movie, kind of what these retreats are like, because I would
Yeah.
assume from what you just said, it's basically the same feelings of just not giving up, and always just kind of pushing yourself. And I think a lot of people, when a traumatic thing happens like this, the first thing they do is they go into depression,
Mhm.
and then they start to
Absolutely.
say, hey, my life will never be the same. It's going to be worthless, blah, blah, blah. And I think kind of from Bethany's story, it's the complete different, you have to be positive. You have to it's like, hey, yeah, this is what happened. It just happened. So we have to now figure out how to live with it and make,
Mhm.
still be successful with what we do. And I know that comes through in the movie Soul Surfer, but I can guarantee it comes through with your retreats and all the programs that you guys offer.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest desires we have, and I never lost a limb, but I had a lot of trauma growing up, and I think my greatest desire was to find purpose in the pain that I had gone through growing up, and then meeting Bethany at a young age, and just being a part of her life, and then going through this traumatic thing with her. It's been really cool to see, like, when you are able to help somebody find hope in their story to overcome, you
Mhm.
help them to find a platform to inspire others. And there's something about a comeback story, Soul
Yeah.
Surfer, a comeback story that inspires all of us. And, if you can help those in the midst of trauma to know there's going to be a comeback story to this. Trauma doesn't have to defeat you. I think it's contagious, and it's so cool to see that continue to
Yeah.
play out again and again and again.
That's wonderful. Can you share some success stories of individuals who have been impacted by your foundation, and what were they like before, and kind of what was that transformation like?
Yeah. I think of one story, which is because I think sometimes, we do still have a narrow reach as a nonprofit organization, like, and how are we relatable to others? One of the things we do is an event called Shine Forth. And what it is it's a free community event and it's provided for anyone to come to. And we create a platform for attendees that we feel have a voice and are ready to share their stories. So we kind of create a platform for them to share their story on a public place or in a public place, and to inspire others to find hope, And I remember last year we were doing a fundraiser in San Diego, California, and the last Shine Forth we had had was right before COVID. And so this lady and her husband came up to me at the fundraiser and said, "Hey, we were at this event, Shine Forth, as a family. It was her and her husband and their daughter." And they were like, that was such an inspiring event, but it was the first time they had ever had any involvement with the limb difference community. And so they were driving home as a family thinking, like, okay, that was really cool and it's really inspirational, but like, what now? Like, how do we use this in our lives? Like, how do we use this to impact others? And within a month or two, the mom had actually gotten really sick and wound up in the hospital, and through a process of fighting some illness, ended up going into septic shock and having both of
Mm.
her legs amputated. So she
Oh,
came
wow.
up to me at the fundraiser event and she was like, "Sarah, I just want to thank you because, like, what we didn't know then was that that was preparing us for something that was to come." And hearing the stories of young people who were overcoming their trauma really resonated with her on her journey of recovery. I mean, I wouldn't have even known she had prosthetic legs. She walked so good up to me. She was wearing pants, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and so just to see that you're, like, I'm not saying you come to an event, you're going to lose your limbs, but that our events can resonate with anyone who's facing trauma, whether you end up losing your limbs or not. It's like that, again, that comeback story of offering hope, to say, I'm going to be okay in this. All of us face trauma in our lives in different circumstances and situations, but we have the choice to either be a victim to the trauma or to find victory through it. And so that's one of those stories that I'll never forget. Like, having her come up and share that, I was like, that is, like, you never think that would be how you're going to impact somebody's life, and it was just really cool to see.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, the female retreat and the men retreats. Tell me a little bit more about the difference between the two. And I know the men's retreat is called, I believe, the Forge.
Correct.
How did you come up with that name? And what's the kind of differences between the two?
Yeah. Well, the Forge, being a girl trying to plan a men's retreat, I really leaned into a good friend of ours. His name's Mike Coots. He lost his leg to a shark attack on the island of Kauai, too.
Oh,
He's
wow.
an incredible photographer. He's really great with ocean conservation with an emphasis on sharks, which is pretty incredible. He's really into photographing sharks and really fighting for the protection of sharks. And so, like, I leaned into him and I was like, "Mike, like, what would be amazing for a men's retreat?" And he's like, "Sarah, I think if it was like an vacation of a lifetime, like, what guy wouldn't want to do that?" So for the first retreat, we had them all come out to Kauai.
Mm.
We took mules, like four-wheel mules, through the jungles of Kauai, going through rivers. We got them in the gym. We got them out surfing. They got to go to the Jurassic Park property and actually be where the filming and fence of Jurassic Park was. And it was just, and I, starting the Forge, I was like, can it really do what Beautifully Flawed does for the girls? Like this
Mhm.
full rehabilitative connection, healing. Sometimes guys aren't really ready to get down to the nitty-gritty of emotions and feelings, but
Yeah.
seeing what happened at the Forge was amazing. And the idea of the Forge is like when you're forging a knife, it's got to go through the fire and it's got to go through the pressing and the hitting to really be shaped into the instrument that it was meant to be. And I think that sometimes when we look at our trauma, that, like, we see it through that perspective, like we're going through the fire, but it's going to come out and we're going to be refined by it, and we're going to be like more in our purpose than we were before. And so it's amazing to see how the Forge does that. Guys coming out and, maybe some are numbing their pain with alcohol or drugs, and those have been some really real conversations that the guys have had. But that there's like this brotherhood that's created, like accountability, like we're gonna get sober together, we got
Mm,
this together, like one of our guys who was at the retreat last year is in the hospital right now with septic shock, and like they're all just encouraging him, and you got this. And even seeing how that is giving him the umph to fight in the hospital when he feels really terrible is amazing. And Beautifully Flawed is very similar to that. It's a little more tender because it's girls,
yeah.
but still that full focus of you're beautiful, your scars don't define you, your limb loss doesn't get to define you, who you are is what defines you. And I think that's a message that a lot of young women need to hear. We already struggle with image and all of that stuff from a young age. It's just how girls are wired, I guess. And then you take losing a limb or going through something traumatic that can cause like a lot of insecurity and self-worth, questioning self-worth and doubting even the purpose of living. And so it's amazing to see how so many girls come to the retreat very timid, very ashamed to show their prosthetic arm or limb. And then by the end of the retreat, like so many of them tell me, I go home and I'm carrying my prosthetic limb through the airport because they're no longer ashamed of how
Yeah.
they look. They found their worth and their value and their purpose, which is
Mm.
amazing.
I could just, I can sense and feel just in myself how empowering that could be, after coming back and just like carrying it over their shoulder,
Yeah,
like, I don't care. I don't care what other people's opinion are. This is who I am. And
yeah,
I'm taking like ownership of it. And
yeah.
this is who I am now. I love it.
Taking off their prosthetic, like give me high five, So
Yeah.
it's just
Making
cool.
jokes of it, making it,
Yeah,
a
totally.
little lighthearted.
Right.
Um, Tell me a little bit. One of the other things is creating these care packages. Tell me a little bit about the process of creating the care packages, delivering the personalized care packages, and then like how do you tailor each package to kind of to the recipient's circumstances or needs?
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of the care package program was, for me personally, being a part of Bethany's lives, I fulfill those care packages, almost all of them, unless I'm traveling or something. But being able to open those and help Bethany go through her fan mail and read it and see how that responded, like resonated with her, has really helped me in my approach to our care packages. So what happens is people can go onto our website and they fill out a little form, tells us a little bit about their story. Usually it's like fresh in the midst of trauma. Family members whose son, maybe somebody's son just lost his limb. And so they're like, what do we do? We know he's going to need this support, and they reach out to us right away. So we really tailor our care packages personally to each person and individual that we're sending them to. And I just kind of like read their story and kind of think like, what are the things that they're interested in and how can this really inspire them? And so we put together just really special pieces for them, shirts and towels and, like all different books and all different things to kind of give them that little like kind of pep in their step while in the hospital. And then with each one, I write a personal letter and I just try to really
Mm.
gauge it to what they're going through or how they might be feeling. And I reminisce back to what Bethany had gone through in the midst of that time. And like, you don't know what your future looks like. You don't know if you'll walk again. You don't know what you'll be able to do. And so just kind of having that tender response that like, look, you are going to overcome this. Like I have seen this so many times and you might not know today what your future is going to look like, but I know you have a full future ahead. And so it's just cool to be able to do that. And I know what it meant for Bethany and her family. So it's always great to hear back and how a care package impacted somebody's life. It's an amazing thing.
Well, and I think the personalized aspect of it, where you stop and you actually do a handwritten note, and you're I don't think a lot of people do that, in nonprofit organizations. And I think when nonprofit organizations can one do have that personalized touch to the person that they're trying to help, but then also like to their donors, like, hey. thank you so much for being a donor. Like, this is the impact your donation had, and this is the person that it helped, or the situation that you helped solve. And that's kind of one of the things that we want this podcast to be, is to also help other nonprofits. And
Mhm.
I definitely like the way that you personalize everything, because I think that's such a big part of running a nonprofit, in not only your donors, but also the people that you help, so that they feel, seen and heard. And like, it just makes them just, I think, appreciate it even
Yeah,
more.
thank
And
you.
I can just imagine how the gratitude, or the feeling of just the peace and the love and the joy that you get and Bethany gets from
Mhm.
just doing this, right? Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
handwriting and taking the time, and not like, hey, thanks for the donations over here, and we're going to throw it out the window over here back to the people, right?
Totally.
That need it. It's like you put the ownership in, and
Mhm.
I can just imagine how well that feels to you and Bethany.
I
So, and
just feel
everybody
so
else that
blessed.
helps you out.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I
feel
bet.
so blessed to get to do what I get to do, and it's like my smile when I talk about it, it's just so genuine, because it's like that is what it does. It just stirs such I know what it is. Hope is contagious, and it's like to be
Yeah.
able to bring that to somebody, or even if it's just something in the hospital at the moment and they go back later on and look at it and how that's impacted them. It's everything to what we do.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Um, are there any specific stories or examples of somebody that has received the actual care package, that had the package had on their life, the impact that it's had on their life?
Yeah, there's been a lot. It's hard to think of one story, but if I were to pick one story, I would think of a young lady named Nan. She is just the most beautiful, like high-spirited young woman ever. We heard of her story right after it happened. She was in the hospital, and she was in a jet ski accident where she not only lost her leg in the accident, but she also lost her father. It was very, very traumatic accident, and I've just sent her a care package and a little note and just said, "Hey, like we're here for you." I think that's one of the
Mm.
key things in the care package is like if you have questions or you need something, like we want to do life with those that we come in contact with. We don't want to be like a one stop, okay, bye, everything's better. Like we want to do life with those who need somebody to do life with them. And so we sent this care package off to Nan. And 2 years ago, we do like a application process for retreats. And we had closed our application process. We were like not even 2 months out from doing a retreat. And all of a sudden, we get this application. We don't even know how it came through because we thought we had closed it. Was an application from this young girl, Nan. And my assistant called me and she goes, "Sarah, I don't know how this happened, but we got an application from a girl named Non." And I'm like, "No, it's not Non. That's Nan." Like she applied to a retreat. And this is a couple years after she received the care package. And when she came to the retreat, so I never really knew what the care package meant to her. But I was like, she has to come to the retreat. Like, this is a full circle experience. We have to, like, I don't care if we have one more person and we plan, Nan's coming to the retreat. And so she came and I just looked at her and I said, "Nan, you have no idea like what an impact your story has made in my life. And, I've prayed for you over the years and it's so good to have you here." And she looked at me and she just said, "Sarah," she goes, "I don't think you know this, but I got the care package the day of my dad's funeral." And she said, "You don't know what it meant to me to open that before I went to his funeral and with the impact it had." She said, "I was emotionally not ready to come to a retreat. And then that summer of before she came, she said, I was studying abroad and I kept feeling like, you need to go to this retreat. You need to go to this retreat." She said, "So I just went on and somehow I was able to apply and get through. And now I'm here." And just to see the growth that has happened in Nan's life, last year, we actually had her at two of our retreats. And the second retreat, we actually had her sharing and speaking her story to others, because she's just come so far in her journey. And that's the
Mm.
beauty of when you see a care package come full circle from a care package to a retreat attendee to now a leader speaking and inspiring hope to other young women. And there wasn't a dry eye when she spoke.
Oh,
Her
I
story was
bet.
just so powerful. So that's one story that just really sticks out to me. Like I said, there's so many, but they're just so special when you see how they come full circle like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So, as you continue to grow and expand your program, any new initiatives, or how do you envision the future for the Beautifully Flawed Foundation, and what's coming up down the pipeline?
Awesome. Great question. Thank you for asking. We're actually working to try to create a podcast. So I'm in the initial stages of doing all the research and whatnot. Right now we do a blog called Stories of Hope. It's one of our platforms that really reaches a lot of people, and we hear back a lot in how it impacts others. It's basically in written form what a podcast is in live form or recorded form. And so, I really feel like we want to broaden our reach. And I think we can do that through offering these stories of hope to others. I think of if you had a place to go in the moment of trauma or in the moment of kind of deciding, am I going to be victorious or am I going to be a victim to my circumstance? I think these stories would really help you cross the line to being victorious and finding purpose. So that's one of our biggest passions we're working on as a team. And we have a desire to continue to grow and doing more retreats. We keep our retreats pretty small. We try to keep them about 20 people. We find that's kind of that safe rehabilitative space. But it does limit how many people who can come to the
Mhm.
retreat. So our goal is to grow those programs and not only just have the new retreats, but kind of create retreats for previous attendees or those who've aged out who might not fit our age range. People lose limbs at all walks of life. The forge is gauged at an older age because a lot of young men go off to war and whatnot. And so we found that that was kind of a little more appropriate. The girls' retreat is gauged 14 to 25. And so, it's hard when we get those aged out people who've just faced limb loss and they're like, can I come? So
Mhm.
those are some of the goals we have, is to kind of create a program for those who are beyond the age of our current reach, but then also be able to provide more retreats, conferences, and community events. It's exciting. This year, we're going to be doing our first Shine Forth event, like I had talked about earlier. Since COVID. So to see us kind of get back to where we were is really exciting, and just continuing to grow and think outside the box. And just, like I said, I think hope's contagious. So we want to infect a lot of people with it.
That's wonderful. So, what's the best way for people to reach out to you, whether with donations or to find out about the retreats? What's your where do you tell people to go to find more information about you?
Yeah, we have a great website, beautifullyflawedfoundation.com. It's a great resource to finding out where to donate, watching videos, and kind of getting to know what we do, learning about our programs. You can go there to apply for our retreats or to get more information, or if you know someone who's faced a traumatic limb loss or maybe is born with limb difference and just struggling with their identity, you can go there to fill out a form for a care package. Um, and so the website's a pretty full circle experience for all of those things. We also have great social media content, always coming out videos that inspire. And so I think that's a great way too for people to connect. But for donations and all of those, we have several platforms on our website that you can give to, whether it's Easy Tithe, the PayPal account, or other ways that you can give.
Great. And we'll make sure to include all those
Thank you.
links in the bio. But Sarah, this is a pleasure getting to know the Beautifully Flawed Foundation. Hopefully, this reaches a lot of people, and we can start to spread some awareness for you.
Thank you. No, that would be really amazing.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for being here.